Hello drummers and other creatures, I'm on location today at Mill Hill Music Complex in northwest London, recording outside of the house to get the brain working in a different way a little bit. I'm testing out whether I can get away with a reasonably portable setup that I can carry on the bus because I don't have a car, and so today we're going to look at some stuff you can do to help you just improve your basic sound. It's very easy to forget in this day and age when you're watching Instagram and YouTube Shorts and God knows what other mad TikTok stuff that drumming is about getting a good groove to support music, right? And most of the time, all those blah, 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 hagada, 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 all of that sort of stuff, it's kind of a distraction from what normal music needs a lot of the time. So I'm going to bring our attention to an exercise that we can do to help sort of strengthen and improve your backbeat in terms of sound and timing. So we're just going to concentrate on a simple thing. Let's just get stuck in. I've also made a video about how sort of what gear I'm using to set up and film this, and so if you haven't watched that already, you can have a look there to see if you're interested. Well, not if you're interested, but if you are interested, watch the video and you can see what gear I'm using. And it's a backpack and some extra bags worth of stuff that I can move around with some a little bit of effort, but there we go. Anyway, let's get into this thing. So we're going to look at improving our backbeat. And, you know, in most cases, people coming to me want to learn how to play rock, pop drumming. We do some jazz, reggae, a variety of styles. But most of the stuff is relating to good timekeeping. So this is something I'm going to address, which is how do we hit the snare drum when we're playing a backbeat on the 2 and 4? Just in terms of 9 times out of 10, you want to hit the drum in the middle. You might want to hit a rim shot. You might want to hit the hoop of the drum as well as the head. That gives you a loud sound. But for today, I'm just going to hit the snare right in the middle. So even though my neighbours tolerate me playing at home, I don't feel quite relaxed enough to whack the snare like that, so I tend to play softer stuff just because I'm such a considerate human being, as all drummers are inevitably. But anyway, so we're looking at how we hit the snare drum. Try and get used to hitting the bullseye, and you know there's 2 main ways of like raising the stick. I know this seems kind of obvious, but we can raise the stick using what's known as a molar stroke. And you know, you can comment if it's not a proper molar stroke or whatever, but basically molar stroke where we kind of initiate a whip kind of movement. And the way I describe it is just as a stroke that's played by pulling the back of the stick like this. And the other one is initiating the stroke from the tip of the stick, which for some reason I associate with like Billy Gladstone or Stone or something like this. I'm probably wrong. But so I'm pivoting my hand up. Now I'm not doing any bouncy thing. Throwing it down, okay? So during this exercise, if you decide to follow this, if this is interesting, think about those 2 ways that you can hit the snare drum, but the main thing you're going to focus on is the fact you're going to hit the drum right in the middle. Now, what is the exercise? Well, we're going to think about the timing of when we raise the stick in order to play the snare drum. So based on like a really simple, you know, money beat, number 1, whatever, bass drum on 1 and 3, snare on 2 and 4, I'm going to sit, I'm going to put AC/DC on, I'm going to play this. And when you do that, you might be wondering, you know, why don't I sound as good as Phil Rudd? Well, why don't you sound as good as Phil Rudd? Why don't any of us sound as good as Phil Rudd? Or any kind of drummer that you associate, whatever, with your favourite, you know, ZZ Top, Mr. Beard, is it Mr. Beard? And so on. But, you know, why, what's missing from there? And one of the things is like this really precise sense of timing when we're playing a groove, like just a straightforward rock groove. So let's think about, when do we raise the hand to play the snare, right? So again, whether or not you're using this whippy motion or whether you're raising the stick like this from the tip, we're going to first start off, if I keep my bass on the 1 and 3, we're going to think, okay, on the 1 and the 3, not only am I playing my bass, but also I'm initiating a stroke with the left hand, right? So as I hit the bass, my left hand prepares to strike the snare coming up on the next quarter. So we'd have... Left hand goes up, again if you're other way round, right hand in your case, but left hand goes up on the 1 and 3 with the bass drum. Bass drum goes down, left hand goes up. Now, this isn't meant to be a default stroke. You're not meant to necessarily hit the snare drum like that. I mean, that's about as much power as you'd ever want to throw at your snare drum. And if you're playing a gig in the pub, you're going to really annoy your bandmates, depending on how much amplification they've got. So I'm not suggesting this is the way you need to hit the snare all the time, but as an exercise in focusing on the interaction between your limbs, also when you're not actually hitting the drum. Okay. Now, if I want to play this molar whip type of thing, I'm going to open up the space by playing the hi-hat with my forearm kind of extended a little bit. I've got this kind of pattern happening. I suppose ideally I want the stick in line with my hand, and I create a space there where I can hit the snare drum and I can do this ridiculously large movement. Yeah, again, for practice purposes, and you might, if you're a really heavy player, you might want to get used to doing that. So I'll use that if I'm playing rock and getting carried away and being very energetic. I open up that space there. Okay, so here we go. I'm sorry I don't have above me a camera. That wouldn't be very lightweight, would it, to add that? But here we go. So I'm going to raise my hand on the 1 and the 3. All right, I don't need to do a fill and a crash, do I, at the end of that? Now, if you're going for the sort of raising the stick from the tip type of movement, again, not one of these is better than the other. It depends what you're comfortable with. But you could maybe play, French grip on the hi-hat and then the sticks are more sort of crossed over, or you can do the same sort of open position. But just for the sake of demonstrating the difference, I'm going to play French grip. That means my thumb's on top of the stick, and then I'm bringing my arm closer to my body and extending the elbow out a bit to make all that mechanism, the turning the doorknob thing, happen nicely. So thumb on top, I'm playing the hi-hat at the closest part of the cymbal to me. Now, to get the kind of raise on the 1 and 3, it's going to be very exaggerated. So again, the reason we're doing this is more of a kind of opportunity to focus on just the accuracy of how we're moving our hand, okay? And this is going to give you the ash zone scoop, as I like to call it, right? So we're going like this. Now, doing the raise of the stick on the 1 and 3, unless you're playing like really fast, is going to give you quite a large motion. And what we want to think about is a sort of fluid movement. So we think of like, well, I certainly think about a sort of circular motion, up, down, up, down, up, down. And that gets us into the sort of consistency of a groove. And if you get used to doing that fairly evenly, you're going to land a very consistent stroke on the snare. Again, in rock music, especially pop music, R&B, I don't know, but a lot of the time getting that really consistent sound on the snare is more important than any other clever thing you think you might be able to do. So let's work through some other options, because in real life I'm not going to want to raise the stick like that so much. So just to be thorough, and I don't know if you have to practice this, but I'm going to raise my hand on the E as well. So I'm going to go 1 E and 2, 3 E and 4, okay? And it's not a strong attack in my hand movements. I'm not trying to like really jerk my hand. So the rhythmical nature of it is slightly more, I don't know, a sort of soft resolution. Okay, 1 E and 2, 3 E and 4, 1 2. It's not that easy to discern a difference between, you know, the 1 E and the 1. But let's have a go with that. And I'll do the molar thing, allegedly, and then the Ashstone scoop. Right. So we're going. Here we are. When I'm going like this. I'm not sure if German grip or French grip is feeling, I don't know, if you watch Ashstone, he's doing, I'm not saying you have to copy Ashstone, but he just has a very noticeable motion like that. But yeah, French, German, Stone is French grip, I think, there. Anyway, see what works for you. Next, something that's sort of more realistically going to be used in everyday playing, we're going to use the and. 1 and. Can you hear me counting? 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. And because the and is a little bit closer to where we're going to play the downbeat, we can do a smaller motion. And again, depending on which, you don't have to do like this kind of French grip, whichever, you know, tip of the stick option if you prefer the molar. If you prefer the tip of the stick movement, just pivoting your hand, you don't have to do the molar as well. You can do. Don't listen to all these people who say that you have to be able to like learn every single technique. Oh, everyone needs to play trad grip. You know, it's not realistic. You don't need to put that sort of pressure, unless you're one of those people who's got 8 hours in the day to practice. You don't need to do every single technique. So if this way of raising the stick is working for you, you can be happy with that. If you like doing that, you can be happy with that. I mean, this gives a tremendous amount of power. Do you need that in what you're playing? It's up to you. All right, now, so from the sublime to the ridiculous, let's go, it's not actually, what am I saying? This is probably another more practical. So the and the is probably the two kind of motions that you're going to use most commonly. So 1 E and and then I'm raising there. 1 E and a 2, 3 and a 4. 1 E and a 2, 3 and a 4. So that gets things moving a little bit quickly. So those are the four main options on the 1, on the E, and on the R. If you just practice, I don't know, the 1 and then the and the R, you're okay. The E is just, you know, slightly just being thorough, I suppose. But I'm going to introduce shortly an exercise where we're going to use that in a slightly more practical thing, so don't completely give up on it. Now, next, let's see if we can coordinate the bass drum with the hand motion. So obviously, if I'm playing bass on 1 and 3, we're doing money beat number 1, and I'm raising the stick there. I've got that movement of my right foot going down, left hand going up. So we're doing this kind of opposing motion. And just to clarify, this is not an exercise that I'm saying you have to go away and like attain mastery of this, but you might find that you spend 5 or 10 minutes here and there doing this sort of thing just to help you think about a little bit these issues of how the where, or the where, the when in time you raise your stick can have an effect on like how consistently you sound, how consistently your timing comes out, and so on and so forth, right? So I'm not sending you away and saying you have to practice this for an hour a day. Try these ideas out if you think it might be helpful, and use it in any way that you can measurably see it causes some improvement in your playing, or even if it just helps to widen your perception. Okay, so I was playing the bass on the 1 and 3, so that first option was coincident with the bass. This time I'm not going to play the bass on the 1, I'm going to play the bass on the E for a bit. We'll try that one, and we're just trying to notice how it feels to drop the bass down and raise the left hand up in different places in our group of 4/16ths, right? Let's see if I can get away with this. So 1E, we're going to go. Now, when I do that, I sort of notice things happening in my body. I feel a little bit out of balance. My neck tightens up a bit. Things are happening. And I don't have to react to that in any way or think, this is no good. I don't really know. But I'm trying to listen to my body and think about little feelings of tension, where it feels like maybe muscles are doing things that they don't need to do. And maybe I can let go of that as I practice this exercise, okay? Now let's do the and. So I'm going to play the bass drum on the and of 1 and the and of 3. Same, lifting the stick at that point. Let's go this way this time. So you may or may not have noticed that I'm just playing the hi-hat tip of the stick on top, and I'm trying to play even strokes there. There's all those different ways of playing the hi-hat. So if you're liking playing the hi-hat on the edge there, getting a grittier sound, same thing, do that, and notice the interaction there. Or whatever sounds you want to do. If you get into this, you can then do the accent patterns where you shank tip motion or something like this, and you can and try and coordinate with all of that. That can be quite a good exercise to do. I'm not going to get into that now. Okay, so then we have the 1E and R, the R of the 1, and now we have to move quite quickly. 1E and 3E and 1E and. See, I'm working too hard. Let's do it a little bit lighter. Commonly known as a pull-out. What am I doing? I know what I'm doing. I'm playing a stroke. I didn't mean I've jumped ahead. Let's try that again. 1 yana. Completely forgot what I was doing there for a minute. Okay, so let's recap that just to avoid any misunderstandings. And we're going to go 1 yana 2 like this. 1 yana 2. I've given the game away. Now we're going to do the upstrokes as well. But here we go. As promised, now we're going to actually play an upstroke. So by that I mean, as I move my hand up, I'm going to play the drum. So if I'm on the 1, I'm going to go back to playing the bass on 1 and 3. Now, that's a revelation because I noticed that there's a bit of flamming going on. My left hand isn't so coordinated with my right foot. Now, in real life, I'm probably not going to need to play a pattern like that, so that might not be a big deal, but in terms of like establishing a nice, even movement of the hand, that could be, yeah, again, a revelator. It can expose maybe something that's not so rhythmic in what I'm doing that I can tighten up if I want to. Okay, let's do the 1E this time. And we're looking, again, for the smoothest possible movement. So the E, da, D, da. So it's all happening in one go. If you notice, there's like a discrete movement, a soft note, and then lifting up. That's not what we want. We want to get a lift of the stick. It's all happening in one go. Let's do the and. I'll stay in French grip now. I like that. So. Finally, the tricky one, a pull out. I'm going to go R2. And that's something that's really worth practicing a lot. I'm really belting the snare today, so you could practice this at a slightly more sensible dynamic, but I don't know, it's nice sitting in a room and being able to make lots of noise. Here we go. See, why doesn't that work? So you see there, I noticed I initiated the sequence of events, and my body was suddenly going, molar, Gladstone, stone, whatever, tip thing, whip thing, Now, if I'm playing, freely, I'm improvising, or I'm rehearsing with a band, and I've got a groove like that, a James Brown-y sort of. I've just discovered something that I could do well to practice and try and, lubricate the process, create little wires in my brain that will make that movement better, the pull-out. It's a tricky thing to do. I've got a video full of paradiddle exercises where you turn paradiddles into grooves, and it includes using that motion. So that's a good thing to practice. But there you go. That's just a simple series of exercises that get you thinking about what the up part of the stroke involves and how that fits in rhythmically. And I haven't done it with a metronome, but you should do it with a metronome. Put the click on, figure out a nice tempo that you can play all of those movements at, and work your way through those combinations. And you can add and modify this idea any way you like. If you don't like doing things like this in terms of a technical exercise, just think about any groove that you're playing that relates to a song that you like playing, something you're working on, something you want to rehearse with your band, and play that groove and think about, where does my hand want to go up to play that snare backbeat? And if you're playing something with loads of ghost notes and chattery, again, Clyde Stubblefield kind of thing, that can work in a sort of more, smaller movement kind of consideration. But other than that, just pretty much anything you want to play, you can think about those hand motions. So just to reiterate, even if you spend just a little bit of time working through these options, think about, where does my hand go up? And then put your favourite song on, think, where does my hand go up? Am I doing it rhythmically or not? If you initiate the stroke in a rhythmic way, the chances that you'll create something that sounds good and is rhythmically consistent go up. Anyway, I think that'll do for this one. One take seems to be okay. I'm pretty sure this will end up on YouTube very soon. I really appreciate you watching this, of course. If you like what I'm doing, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, do that like thing, and comment in the comments section. I'm very, very receptive to any suggestions. If you want to have a moan and so on, that's great as well. But if you want to suggest anything, I'm happy for any ideas you have, and I'll make a video if it's a topic that I feel I can make some sort of useful contribution to. Meanwhile, there's a buy me a coffee thing as well. So if you feel like you'd like to recognise my contribution to the wider drumming community or whatever, and give a token of your appreciation, I will appreciate that as well. That wraps this up. I think you should go off and practice, or click on my next video and watch obsessively and help the stats.